And we are back. It's been a while, gentlemen.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing?
Brad's Tanner.
Oh, am I? Thank you. I've also got a summer cold.
A summer cold.
Yeah, so I have my radio voice on today.
That's
Is that what
good.
they call it these days?
I guess so.
So we've been all traveling and away, and depending on where you and when you listen to this, it may be totally irrelevant. So you can tune us out. But you've been up in the mountains some.
Oh,
Ken?
over the mountains. So we talked a few weeks ago about getting away, sabbaticals, and those kind of things.
When I think of the mountains, though, I don't think of where you went. I
went
think of
to
Colorado and
New York,
The Adirondacks.
the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
Upstate New York
Adirondacks.
is different than downstate New York. It's a different.
It sounds beautiful when you
place.
described it, and I'm jealous.
It is. It's actually a place that, because as everyone knows, I grew up in New York, downstate New York, Queens, and although we didn't have any grass and we had no trees,
I don't believe you grew up
we had zero grass
in Queens.
Oh, you don't believe
No,
me?
because you don't have an
What-
accent.
What do I have to do? Oh, you know what?
I want to hear
I
it
hear
come
it.
out.
I've-
I hear it, but it's hidden. It's like way
It's
down.
definitely hidden,
You've like hidden it.
and
You haven't met his brothers.
you haven't met my mom.
Oh yeah. Well, I know your brother.
She calls it Uber.
That's right. Uber.
I took Uber from the airport.
I know.
Colin Uba.
Oh,
I've never-
I give her some stuff about that.
I'm
It's
waiting
like
for you
truck
to-
driver.
Waiting for you to say something, but
So the Adirondacks were beautiful.
Yeah, so I grew up with no trees or grass, just cement, and a very little bit of cement. And we used to always go to this place in upstate New York on this lake since before I was born. My family's been going there. So it's a very special place, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's several, like 5+ hours, about 5 hours from New York City. So it's in the Adirondacks, and if anyone's been to the Adirondacks, they know that it is one of those kind of like, it's one of those mountain range woods places that is legit. It's not like you go there and you're glamping. It's like I was having a fire one night. Everyone was asleep. I look up and there's a bear, like just kind of like
Wow.
moseying along through the property, and I'm like, so you're out there, and that's what's great about it. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's very remote. It doesn't have very much connectivity. You can only get cell service in certain places of the town. The town's
Wow.
only got a couple hundred people.
I need that kind of excuse in my life just to like
and it's beautiful.
disconnect.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So it was good, and there's a lesson here, because it's like we talked about being able to get away and that kind of thing, and just being transparent. Like our business, I used to be able to get away a lot more, and I'm working back towards that. And just COVID shifted everything, and it changed. It didn't like, not that it hurt the business, just changed it. And we're sort of like pivot or adjusted a lot of things, and I'm involved in a lot more things. But I was really thankful that I could. So we did 2 weeks. I've done a month up there before, and it's like one of those special places. You guys all have it. I think yours is in Florida, maybe.
Mhm. Well, we go to Florida, yeah.
But you have those special places. I'm sure everyone has it. Hopefully everyone has one. To me, this is this place, but it's like those special places where you go and it's like you get restored.
Yeah.
It's like safe. If you went to your safe place in your mind, it would be that.
What does it feel like
Kind
to
of thing.
be up there for a month? And like, do you feel like so recharged afterwards? Especially if you're disconnected from like
Yeah, it's I
from
know.
digital media.
I'm sure. I don't know. Everyone's different. For me, being disconnected, like I need the way I recharge is going away and getting. I go into conferences, doing mastermind, like getting out of my environment. For a period of time is the way that I get rejuvenated from a mental energy creativity standpoint. Right? Not like physical, and there's definitely a physical side of it, but that's how that rejuvenates me, and so I don't know if that's true for everybody, but I need that pretty regularly, and I don't get that as often as I should now. And my life, my purpose, my goals, my business, all that suffers from it. So I have to. I've actually been working with my coach on how I can instill more of these things, because there's less conferences to go to. There are less like things that are happening, and you get this. And also you have to be able to create it yourself. So, but sorry to answer your question. Yeah, I go away for 2+ weeks usually, and it's one of those kind of put your mask on first backwards things where people are like, how can you do that? It is so important that not doing that would affect my life much more negatively and my business much more negatively, mid to long term.
Yeah.
And so for me, getting away gives me perspective, and it also brings in creativity. And so I come back, I keep a journal as I'm away. I listen to and read a lot of things. And inevitably, I get more ideas, I get more inspiration.
That's good.
And, I get back, and there's this afterglow that I try and preserve, because it gives you perspective. Some of the things that give you anxiety don't give you anxiety anymore. Like that kind of stuff. So
social media and other type of content.
Yeah, like social media, like generating content. So I'm not a social media.
That's my transition.
That's good. It's good. Yeah. I don't have the anxiety of reading social media, because I've never been the one that's into it, but I do enjoy creating content.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny?
What's
we record this on a Friday.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm not making this about me, but I don't know about you guys, but for me, Friday's my content day. It's like a gauntlet.
Yeah, I know.
It's like-
that. You dedicate your whole day to it, right?
Yeah, it starts here and ends at pizza.
All right.
But
With
in
your
between, there's just all this content generation and creation. I have to probably split it up a little bit.
So, today I think that's a great topic to segue into the topic, is to talk a little bit about content, marketing, and whether, that's been something that we've been focusing on for the last 7 or 8 years. Obviously, the social media platforms and stuff have given us new channels and some exciting ways to, share our clients' content and tell stories and connect with their customers, and also a way for our own agencies to, connect with our customers. But, we spend so much time doing it, but yet there's a sentiment out there that too much content is bad.
Yeah.
We all, I think, would agree that social media has caused a lot of negative effects in our
Sure.
cultures, and a lot of people, they're not saying I want more, I want to be on it more. They're trying to discipline themselves to say I need less.
Right.
So with all of that being said, I'd like to unpack a few things about it, because I have some strong philosophical challenges with social media, content marketing in some ways. And I used to be a big brand guy. I always really felt like developing your brand for the next 10 years for your clients was really the most important thing you can do for the long haul. But my feelings have shifted a lot on that lately in the last couple years, and I've seen some things that tell me that's not always the right approach. It can be the right approach for some clients, but for the majority of clients, at least that we work with, it's not always the case. And knowing when and when not to, I think, is the key. How I think that you can't say, hey, this is your marketing mix, and content management, content marketing always has to be 30% of what you're doing, always, for every client. I say bull. No way.
I mean,
that's not what clients, a lot of clients would need.
BS on the formula.
Yeah, because because what they want.
This is where you put your foot down.
Well, it's not what they want in business. It's not their business model. Their business model isn't that. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah.
So content marketing, is it worth it?
Is it worth
content marketing, is it worth it?
I like that title, because that's exactly. Is it worth it?
Yeah. I think there's a few things that you said there that we probably need to parse out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's content marketing and then there's social media, and sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're not even close to the same thing.
Yeah, I didn't talk about,
Yeah,
the
no, but
other
I
side
think
of content.
But
I'm
I
just-
think that's important because I think when people go, "Oh, content marketing," then I've got to like get on Facebook and make a lot of posts and get a lot of activity on it for the client.
Yeah.
And I would say that's maybe sometimes good, but then sometimes it has nothing to do with social media platforms. Maybe it's different types of content.
Yeah.
Like it's SEO kind of content.
Yeah, you're right.
That's-
I only chose to talk about the social part. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I believe that good branding must include good content marketing. I don't think you can separate the two in today's age. Part of branding is about building trust in your brand and creating that emotional connection and creating that trust. And in today's world, everybody's online, and if they don't have any type of content to connect with on that deeper human level, so I would say, you're not really doing branding if you're not doing content marketing today. That didn't used to be the case necessarily, right? You could just run ads because that was what people consumed. Now it's, kind of flipped where the consumer controls the messages. They control their gates of what comes into their eyes and their ears. And so it's creative content marketing, right?
That's true.
But
Yeah.
I think there is separating out what the content is. I think there's an assumption that it's always like a blog post or
Right.
a social media
Yeah.
post and those kind of things. And I think that's maybe also like the nuances in all of this. I think is where in my experience where it actually gets effective, because you're right. Like if you take a certain type of brand, they market to, I don't know, truckers or something like that, and you lay it on top and you say, here's your formula. It's the same as this brand over here, that is super social, that's super trendy, that is like, kind of the latest thing. And you put the same strategy on top of it for, I do believe to Bob's point, like you have to figure out if you're going to build that brand, what content you're going to be creating. But it's not the same. It's not necessarily the blog posts or, I use that because it's a cliche. The same social media channels, like, being on all these different places and creating this stuff. It may be educational content, right? On the more practical kind of, maybe even some might say like more bland sort of business models. Maybe that's educational content. Although I've seen people who stand out, who get it and like have some sort of hook or different thing that they use as part of their brand, and they really get it.
Yeah.
And they stand out from their competition. They also look really different than what most people would traditionally think.
I would say, and we can jump off here and maybe use this if you guys want to, is organic rankings on search are the warmest leads that you're going to find, right? I mean, I think we could all agree with
They
that.
are
For the most part.
Yeah.
So how do you get organic leads, organic rankings? Well, you have to rank for certain keywords and phrases. And the only way you're going to do that is through content. Unless you just have a website that's been sitting there for 20 years.
Yeah.
But apart from that, even that today is not going to guarantee it. So if you're going to get the warmest leads and you're going to go after that holy grail of owning those search terms, you've got to do your work with content.
The challenge that I have is a lot of companies that do content marketing, specifically, I would say more PR firms. I 100% agree with that. A lot of PR firms, they are into getting articles, they're into writing blog posts, but I found that they don't really measure what they're doing. And I think that's the challenge. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. We have a client that uses a PR firm, and they The PR firm is writing articles. They're getting them both. They're getting them published in some publications that would be considered thought leadership. That's great. At the same time, they're trying to run ads on LinkedIn and trying to drive traffic to some posts that are not even on their own website, right? They're on other websites. But the challenge is that their customer is not on either. It's not really on LinkedIn, and they're not reading. They're like, the customer just does not, it typically would not even, they just don't have the bandwidth to be on those platforms very often. And so the client was fine with that, but then less than 6 months into it, they're like, we are getting absolutely no leads, because the whole goal the thing is that the PR firm probably did a good job of communicating that this is, we're not getting leads with this, we're getting thought leadership, right? Which is great. But the reality is the client said yes to that, but the client actually did want leads. He just thought for some reason this was going to produce leads over 6 months. And then we find out that the PR firm isn't even measuring for leads. Doesn't even know how many people are looking at these articles. Don't even know if they're driving leads and what people are doing and how long they're actually staying on these articles.
Right.
They have no clue. So we hooked up some data to be able to see that, and we're seeing that they're having a bounce rate of 98% on these articles, meaning somebody is clicking on them from LinkedIn and paying the fee, and they're doing remarketing, but they're really not sticking around to read the article. They don't care about the article, and they leave. And so it's like, the person may walk away with understanding who the client is, and they might understand these thought leadership ideas. But the reality is that the client needs to make money, and they need these leads, and they're spending this money, and they're not getting any return on investment. But yet, and I get it, they were told that that it was a brand, it was thought leadership, but they really did expect some leads out of it. And that's the challenge I think that I have is like, if most clients that I know, I don't know very many clients that are willing to stick around for 3 years to build a brand. I just don't know very many. If they're newer, if they're a brand new company, or if they've been around for a year, they're just trying to survive this year. And they need to make some money. And we have to, as marketers in today's world, we have to tell them exactly what is making them money. And it's like, I think, and again, I'm very passionate about this. I think modern marketing companies are like financial advisors to their client. If a client gave me $10 million and I went in there and said, okay, you made this much money. And they said, well, where am I making that the most? Well, I don't know. I don't know where you made that money. It just came. We just did a bunch of stuff. We put it in all these different funds and stuff.
And we made more money than we put in.
And we made a little bit more money than we put in. And we think it's our efforts, but I don't know. Maybe it was just one that was a superstar. Yeah. We have no way to measure that. We don't know. We're not looking at it, and it's like they would never do that to you. A financial advisor would give you more details, like, hey, we divided this. This is where it was.
Can I break in right there?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm rambling.
No, you're not rambling. But I think that's an important point to this whole conversation. I have a philosophy, and I think you guys will agree, that the value of really good agencies in 2022 and what's going to set you apart from other agencies is complex and accurate attribution. That's what people pay you for today. Yeah. They pay you for attribution. They don't pay you to run ads. They don't pay you to make money. They pay you to attribute. If I give you this, I want to know exactly what my return is, because they have departments, or they've had a cousin, or they that has run Facebook ads, that have run and they know someone that's really good artist, and they know someone that can write content. But at the end of the day, they're saying, we've tried all these things and we haven't been able to get past X, or it didn't work for us, or we were with this other agency and we paid them $5 million and it was okay, but we've got to do better. What they're saying is, we want to understand exactly what is working, how it works, and we want to be able to have the data to show it works.
Yeah.
And so I think when you boil it all down, it's about attribution.
You're right. I think that's probably it. It's not that I'm anti-content marketing by any means. I think it can be the biggest thing you could do. I just think that a lot of folks who do it can't attribute their efforts to it.
When I talk to people about it, I would say a very high percentage, like 80+% of people don't really understand. They just do it.
Right.
They just do it because they feel like they have to do it. They were told they have to do it. They got to write blogs. They got to post on social media. They got to be on TikTok.
You know how long
that's
it
often.
takes to create content?
Oh, that's right.
I mean, you spend a whole day.
And
in
my
your business doing it.
my year word is leverage. So for me, so we practice what we preach, and always trying to figure out, like, is the time I put into content worth it? And adjusting and that kind of stuff. And I would say, in my experience, working inside of brands, advising on this level, and also doing it for us. Like, I would say in an agency, and we're like more of a hybrid agency, but like from an agency perspective, like we do more content than any that I know of. And the question is why and what's that effect? And so two things. One is I do think it's hard to make direct sales from content, but I do think you obviously need to attribute it or believe it has an effect in the business model. And I think it comes down to customer journey. Yep. The ad may get the attribution, but did if you've got a strategy where you've got the right type of content, building your brand in the right way, in place at the right time, and you've got ads doing the right things at the right time and that kind of stuff. Like, it is, we all know that it's a journey, right? It's not just one thing. And it might be, in my experience, it's rare that content gets the direct attribution unless it's like blog, organic ranking that drives a lot of traffic, which that happens sometimes, but like that is generally rare. Like, we work with e-commerce brands. Like, no e-commerce brand gets the majority of I know few that we worked with, but like 80%, 90% of them, they're getting their traffic through ads, social media, all this other stuff, right?
But I would argue that the company or the organization that doesn't have content won't get the sale.
Yes.
There's very few of us say, this product, that's interesting, I'm going to buy it.
That's what I'm saying.
It's got to be a journey.
But I'm saying, like, most people aren't going to find it through organic search, typically, at least in my industry, right? Like, but that does have a role in the
right.
And that takes time. Like,
it
SEO takes some time and energy, and it takes.
So
I
never advise anyone, like, if SEO is your goal. If your goal, it's like long-term and short-term strategies, and how do you like bridge them, right? How do you get to the long-term strategy of like SEO bringing in more traffic, organic stuff bringing in a lot more traffic, content bringing in more traffic, longer term, but like, it's not going to make you sell tomorrow. Like, you create content, it's not going to generate sales tomorrow. So like, you have to, so I guess where I was going to go is, one, to me, anyone who does content, I think content marketing is such a label that has just watered down and commoditized the entire idea. Because
it's like marketing. It's like the definition
exactly.
is different to every person.
I see content. So I'm a Christian guy. I go to church and stuff like that. I'm a pretty badass pastor. Can I say that about him? So I see content the way an awesome church sees their Sunday service, right? And you get the really good one, like where, you've got the and there's a reason behind it. There's a certain bend, part of the brand of that personality comes out. They can communicate really well. It's profound. It leaves you with a mindset shift. It sits with you. Like, to me, that's what, if you're a brand, like, pick your best church and be as good as them as they do on their kind of Sunday thing. Now that may turn a lot of people off, but like I don't know of another analogy. Maybe it's I don't know. You take the NFL. Like what's on like Sunday football, like what do they do on their games? Like what does their Super Bowl look like? Like what I'm saying is I think of content as an event that someone's going to want to sit and watch and consume. That may be because it's valuable strictly and not entertaining. That may be because they really like your brand. But that's what I think it needs to be in the end result. And I'll just say, like, if you're going to do it, you need to find some sort of fire in you that is your philosophy that you feel like I need to talk about this thing.
Right.
And then it becomes
content.
sustainable. And the byproduct is it becomes branded.
Yeah.
Assuming that you are part of the brand, right? Because like you can't just be like some random dude in an organization that has a certain principle or philosophy and burning passion about something that start talking like that doesn't necessarily work, and that actually backfires. And a lot of brands have done that. But if to do the content, I think the soul of the brand has to be there, and it has to be like there has to be a reason to talk. Because if there's a reason to talk, then you'll enjoy it more, you'll do it more, it'll be more sustainable, even through this is not producing the results. How do I adjust this? Like that kind of thing. And then two, when it does produce results, like when it resonates with people, it'll be very unique and hard to replicate.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
Yeah, I would say too that there's a lot of really good reasons, and we don't have time. Maybe we do a part 2 on this, and I've talked about this before. And Ken, I know we've worked together for many, many years, but at least twice a year, sometimes more, and I'm sure you guys get it too. I'll get somebody that reaches out, and they approach me like a potential client, and they will want reputation management, right? They say, hey, can you help us with this? We had, an old employee or someone brought a lawsuit, or we had a big disaster on a product launch, whatever it may be. When you search their brand, you get some negative search results, right? For whatever reason. This happens a lot with professional services, obviously, because they have much more to lose. But I have always said that one of the biggest values, in my opinion, you guys can disagree, consistent, regular content marketing is a defensive strategy that you will one day be glad you did. And many companies, organizations, individuals may never have to face that, but it's inevitably you're going to get an unhappy customer or an unhappy employee or whatever it may be.
Or you can get someone who realizes that and uses that against you.
Exactly. A competitor,
or a
might,
competitor, or even like,
and it happens. It does happen.
Yeah.
And so the point is,
Wait a second. You can't make everyone happy these days?
the point is, if you're putting out content regularly
Amen.
all the time, you may not get, and this should be just a sliver of your strategy, you may not see sales, quote, air quotes, sales or direct results. But here's what it does do. In the future, 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, when someone searches your name, your brand, your company, organization, that's going to be there, and it's going to be deep, and it's going to be really hard for an individual unless you do something really bad and get on the front page of the New York Times, right? But for the most part, it's a protective thing, because if you're going to come and have to undo that, it's very, very expensive. It's time consuming. And sometimes it's almost near impossible to get rid of some of that stuff.
And as you said, our role of agencies is you believe the agency in 2022 is heavily on the attribution side, which I would agree. I mean, because that's not commoditized and it's not easy and it takes experience. The other side of that is, I think, helping businesses to understand how to not just think about tomorrow's sales,
Right. Yeah.
because that's not how you build a business. It's just not like you need to have things that you put in defensively.
Right.
You need to have things that like you put
Yeah.
in for next year. And anyway, so
Let me ask you this
I
question.
think that's part of it.
We've all done this before, right? We have clients, maybe they've been around for 6 months, they're starting a new business. Maybe they're heavily funded. So you know they have enough money to last for a few years. Their CEO has this long-term vision. He wants to build this great brand. He wants this thing to be around for 20 years. He wants to leave a legacy for himself, all this stuff, right? We all see this before. We work with clients like that. How do you get a client like that to say, I'm going to take X amount of dollars we're going to spend this year, but you won't see any results for about 2 or 3 years, but it's going to, your vision, it's going to completely support your vision for years to come. And that's the challenge, right? Is that the challenge that I always have is that CEO in the end, if you're not, and maybe it's just the mix, right? You take a portion, a percentage for those efforts, but in majority of your efforts are to make dollars today, not tomorrow. Because most of our clients need that money tomorrow. They don't need it 3 years, 4 years down the road. Even if their vision is 3 or 4 years down the road, they need it tomorrow. And they tend to hold you accountable, even if you message that this is branding for those dollars. Because if they don't make those dollars tomorrow, you don't get your dollars tomorrow.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? So the challenge is that for me, it's that fine line. And I completely agree with, I mean, you've talked about, content management, not just to make the dollars, but to, for
Protect the dollars.
And reputation and stuff like that, to bury that glass door,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean? And the search and to put positive things out there. And I'm completely even I talked about this PR firm. I think it's great that they're getting some great articles. I think that
To me, that's the value of PR.
they're doing great
Right.
stuff. Yeah, they're the value of PR.
Placement.
It's just the client doesn't expect something different. And
Yeah,
what I'm
right.
saying is the client always expects something different than
Yeah.
when you talk about brand, unless they're already a brand, unless they're already a company. And maybe the challenge is that we work with a lot of business to business customers.
You know who we need to have?
And it's challenging.
We need to have a friend of mine who, so we don't do content marketing for brands. We just do a lot of our own content marketing.
Yeah.
I hate content marketing. Content, education, that kind of stuff. And I can tell you, I don't play in that area because I don't have enough passion around convincing a CEO that it's important or not. I'd rather, our role is in a little different area. But I can tell you that there are brands that I look at, like you take Groove Life. All right, they're an active brand. They started with they were the second ones in the market. I think second ones in the market. Yes, for silicone rings, way back in like 2015. How many silicone ring companies can you think of right now? Probably 1,000 of them. Like pop up all the
Just
time.
do an Amazon search.
We had, so even just recently, like in 2020, I found a website that actually had, because we did all this like branding and personality and, even our warranty was branded like 94-year, no BS warranty, like these specific things and it was part of our content. It was really part of our branding strategy, which content was played into, because we were like, we can't be a commodity. We need to be a brand. And that's important. That actually has a value, and that'll be our moat. And we create great products and do all that kind of stuff. The point is one, there's so many of those, and Groove is still growing at an amazing pace, and people pay a premium to buy Groove's products, even if it's a ring. And you got the same, not the same quality, but like perceivably from the surface, like the same exact product in a million other places. I can get 10 rings on Amazon for $5. I can do all these kind of things. Yet people will pay $60 for a ring, okay, on Groove. And there's a reason. I believe that the brand, not I believe, the branding is the only difference. The brand promise and fulfillment of that promise and the quality and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. But what I'll say is, we even had someone I found in 2020. They copied the same website. They had the same typos. It was the exact same thing. They just changed the name. All right. So they copied everything from like the 94-year no BS warranty. It was ridiculous. but what's funny about it is they made a little money and then they went out of business. Like this happens all the time because it's like a good brand, I believe, is the only moat that you have, and it can't be replicated.
And the product's a consumer product, right?
It's a consumer product.
That is
Right.
something that people need to see visually. They need to express how it's used. It's like, like Nike. It's like, it's all about the attitude. It's about but this right here, I'm wearing one of those group jeans, and I've had it for about 3 years now. And I have a pack of Amazon cheapos, and this is outlast all of them. It's more comfortable. Plus, I would never tell my wife that I replaced the wedding ring with a $5 Amazon rubber ring.
It's actually the perfect product, right? How much is a wedding ring?
It's $1,000. It's worth it. It's my wedding ring. I'd pay $1 million for that thing.
Yeah,
you're worth it. You're worth it, honey.
I think we should do a part 2 on this eventually. We have a few more minutes, but because we haven't even got into
I know.
What should be the priorities, right? Like, I think in the last year and a half, I've really, really dug into with my team members and myself is just understanding how to do good content marketing. So, Google's, prioritizes the whole schema language and understanding that schema. There are thousands and thousands of schema, call it schema rules or schema examples. And to me, when someone's listening, say, well, what's schema? The easiest way to explain schema is, when you're searching for your favorite restaurant on Google and you're in the car and your wife's searching it up for you, it's like, hey, where do you want to eat? The result has the actual, favorite, Mexican food near me. And here's 4 results. And then you see the menu underneath one of those, and you can actually see the products that they're selling, the food, or if you're going to a movie, you see movie times that are actually in the Google search result. Understanding how to create and write that for your clients or for yourself, and H1, H2s, and all of that kind of stuff. I think today it's not enough just to write good copy. That's great. That's just the first step in that. And so I think good content marketing is taking on kind of there's a whole new method, language behind it, strategy. And I think you can see, those that are doing it well and those that aren't. It's just another really big tool in our arsenal.
Can you guys, Bob, you spend probably quite a bit of your days with developing content management strategies for clients and implementing those strategies. Do you ever find, and I'm completely 100%, if you feel like there's something in your client's mix that's missing and it includes content management, and you should be able to take a little bit of risk to see if it actually does do what you feel it should do. But you should also, again, put those means to measure the attribution. If you're not measuring, then you don't know. And again, I'm completely all for it. Some of the stuff as agencies, you literally got to take a little risk and tell your clients, we think this will work. Well, we're also going to tell you, we may not know until after we do it and run it for 6 months or whether it will or not, but we think it may be strong in your mix. But I guess my question was for Bob, is there anything that you've done that you feel like, you've communicated to clients, this is exactly what it's used for. This is what we're trying to gain from it. This is how we're going to measure the attribution. And you're not going to find that it's going to do what this other direct response thing does, but it's more of a branding or a little longer term play. And then they come back to you and they're like, I think I want to nix that. And I want to nix that off the budget because it's not producing leads or whatever. Do you find that at times or no?
Yeah. The challenge has always been like clients want immediate results. They want to see $1 in, $3 out. So yes. So there's that.
So what do you do though? If you feel strongly like this is something that is really valuable, because it may be very valuable. What do you do to convince a client to keep that
well,
going?
I think you have to set a very firm expectation up front and say, this is going to be a 6-month strategy to start, or a 3-month, or whatever it is that it's going to take. And for the client that is not, and this is most clients today, it's not an intuitive, easy, quick decision. Meaning, if your product has to have some explanation behind it, then content strategy is what you have to do. For instance, if it's no one's searching for your product necessarily, or if there's a lot of competitors around it, then you've got to differentiate yourself. You have to explain it. You have to that middle of the funnel process so that, we have a client that is in the consumer healthcare world, and it's around caregiving for your loved ones, and it's remote, some remote stuff, some remote monitoring, and so people aren't necessarily searching for their exact product, but we know who the individual who is caring and the issues and the problems that are around it. So the strategy is, how do I keep my mom from falling, or how do I convince my mom to use a walker? All of that. That's what then you put the content out there around those things that are touching on people's minds, their heart, their psychology, their anxieties, and you have to do your research. You have to find what people are searching for, and then you have to insert yourself as a solution to that, or an empathy in that. And that can be from groove rings to durable medical equipment to whatever else. So it's more of a holistic strategy. You got to sit down with your client and say, this is the strategy. No one is searching for your brand because no one knows who you are. No one is searching for your solution or your product because for whatever reason, maybe there's another one out there that has become the Coke and you're a new soft drink, right? So you got to differentiate yourself. That has to come from either video, it has to come from content, written content, it has to come from audio, maybe a podcast. And that takes time. And you have to set that, and you all have to be on the same page. And it's not easy.
Yeah.
But I think more and more, I'm finding that clients get it. They're starting to get it.
Well, they're kind of having to. We can end here because, like, it used to be that you can go on Facebook and you could be a brand new brand and you could put an image of your product and it would find people and they'd buy. And that doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And so
thanks, Amazon.
Yeah, right. Or, but it only worked for a small period of time relative to, like American business. So you kind of, that doesn't work. And so you have to go back to what does, which is education and breaking into a market and like actually making someone aware of your brand and your product and why you're unique. For a while, you didn't have to do content at all. And you didn't even necessarily have to develop a brand to get a sale. It's much harder now.
I'll end with this story, if that's okay, unless you had something else. We had a client recently who has a product, and there are other there's one or two other products that have become, the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi. I'd use that as an example of like they own the space, right? And so if I were to tell you what this product was, you go, oh, that's this, right? Well, they wanted to break in because it's a huge market, and they had something that was cheaper, maybe a little bit better. And so they said, well, we naturally said, well, we're going to bid on these brands, right? So when someone searches these other brand names, we can bring them to you. And what we found is that most of the people weren't searching for those brand names to buy. They were searching for the customer service number of those brands. And they was going so far to say they would even come to our client's page after they had searched on those other brands, called their number on the top of the page, and thought that they were calling the other company.
Complaining?
Yeah, exactly. It was customer service. They're like, we're getting all this customer service for these big brands. And they're like, when we're like, well, that doesn't make sense because we're sending them, once they click it, to your sales page, your content page. Right. So all of that to say, it's not good enough just to buy other brands, to even hit people that are searching for that product. We had to take all those brands off And then we had to take another approach of people searching for, maybe the solution around it, whatever it may be, changing the landing page so it was real clear it wasn't that. So that kind of stuff, really, in 2022, it's all about content marketing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's also too, like with that, knowing your competitors and knowing some of their downfalls.
Yep,
and if
exactly.
you have a unique value prop that you're promoting that your competitor doesn't, right? To make people aware of that even stronger. So you guys could have, like, your landing page could have been
Right.
kind of cool. Like it could have said,
Yeah,
"You're tired of Comcast doing this to you."
Tired of the battery always dying?
Yeah.
Like they're there because of
Yeah.
specifics.
Yeah,
right?
specifics. Yeah,
That's
you
great.
could do special campaigns. Anyways, I digress.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing this topic up, Brad.
Yeah.
Something
We
you've
should
been wanting to
talk
about.
a little bit more about maybe more specifics.
Yeah.
'Cause I
I think
we
a
just-
part 2 should be good on
we
this.
just touched the surface of this, and
I mean, and you need to do it for your agency.
Absolutely.
yeah, we need to talk about that.
Good.
All
Ken,
right.
Ken, welcome back from the Adirondacks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you look refreshed.
Until next time, gentlemen.
Bye.
Bye bye.